Welcome to our walking tour of the Main Street portion of the historic mining town of Silver Reef. Our tour starts at the Silver Reef Museum and visits some of the main attractions to see around town. The museum is currently following practices recommended by the State of Utah Department of Natural Resources to stay safe during the COVID crisis. For those not familiar with Silver Reef, it was a mining area and town that was active from 1878 to about 1890. Today, you'll find many remains of that old town. This is one of two virtual walking tours that will take you to some of those sites and explain their history. Both tours start at the front doorsteps of the Silver Reef Museum. Are you ready? Good. Then put on some good walking shoes and let's get going. This building is the only original, fully intact structure left from the old town of Silver Reef. In its day, it housed a banking and shipping office on one side and a dry goods store on the other. It also served as a Wells Fargo stagecoach stop. This stone stepping block found in front of the building helped travelers climb in and out of the stagecoaches. Inside, the museum features exhibits on mining and frontier life, as well as a simulated mine in the basement. Completed in 1878, this is one of the oldest Wells Fargo Express stations in the United States that is still standing. Here, you can see the original vault where the silver bullion was guarded until being shipped out for processing. Walking up the street from the museum, the next building we see is the Cosmopolitan. Not too many years ago, this building served as a restaurant. Currently, it serves as a community building where lectures and programs sponsored by the museum take place. Back in the 1880s, the Cosmopolitan was known to serve the best hash in the territory. This popular restaurant was owned by Margaret Grams, a native of Bavaria, which is a region in Germany. The Cosmopolitan also served as a boarding house. The restaurant was dismantled in 1895 when Mrs. Grams moved to Salt Lake City. The building we see today is a reconstruction. From stop 2, walk up the street until you see the street name signs. On the northwest corner of Main and Center Street sat the Harrison House. This hotel was called the Waldorf Astoria of southern Utah. A large, two-story structure, it held a 5-star restaurant featuring a grand piano on the lower level, furniture and general merchandise stores on the main floor, and guest rooms on the upper floor. It had a total of 45 rooms. After being destroyed by fire in 1879, the hotel was completely rebuilt and refurbished. To reach our next stop, again, walk up the street. Looking uphill from the Wells Fargo building, Silver Reef's Main Street was a mile long. That's hard to imagine today. Think of all the hustle and bustle that used to go on here. It was just like a scene out of any Western movie that depicted a busy main street with horses and wagons traveling through town. Main Street was lined with various shops, saloons, offices, and other places of business. Just beyond the remains of the Harrison House, the tall walls here are remains of such businesses. Many had elegant arched doorways, which was a popular architectural design in those days. We're now going to cross Main Street and visit another place people stayed while in Silver Reef, the jail. This small jailhouse has traveled the county and has now come back home. Once a lodging for thieves, drunkards, and even a murderer, it conveniently stood behind the Elkhorn Saloon, which was sometimes used as a courtroom. When the town was abandoned, the jail was hauled off to Leeds and then to Washington City near St. George, serving at various times as an ice house, granary, and tack house. It finally returned to Silver Reef in 2017. And, no surprise, our next stop after the jail is the Elkhorn Saloon. You know, what is an old historic mining town without a notorious saloon? One of more than a dozen saloons in town, the Elkhorn was operated by George Miller, an immigrant from Germany. One day, the town marshal and a miner had a heated dispute in the saloon. They stepped out the door and shot each other dead, right about on the spot where we are standing on this tour. We crossed the street again over to the site of one of Silver Reef's dance halls. Although the dance hall was next to the Elkhorn, it actually sat in the middle of the street, so unfortunately there's nothing to see. This is the location of the Metropolitan Dance Hall. There were a few such hurdy-gurdy houses in town where wild-hearted women could meet wild-hearted men. In the 1880s, the building was purchased by James Lowder, and he turned it into a general store. Cross the 2nd Street and head over to the small, shaded stone kiosk. Here you can read about the supposed impossibility of finding silver in sandstone, and you can learn about the challenges of extracting, mining, and marketing the ore. The sight tubes point to more distant mine locations, historic cemeteries, and other points of interest. Just like most historic mining towns had their saloons, many also had their own Chinatown. Stop 9 overlooks the area south of town and was referred to as Chinatown in the 1870s. A small community of Chinese lived here. Though they were not miners, they worked a variety of essential support jobs. The one obvious building located across the parking lot from the kiosk is the Rice Bank. John H. Rice moved from Pioche, Nevada in the 1870s to establish a bank in Silver Reef. After the town folded, this building, like the Wells Fargo building, became a private residence. The current building is a reconstruction of the bank on the original foundation. What's real interesting about this building is that Ann Bassett, aka Etta Place, lived here in the 1940s and 50s. Bassett was known as the Queen of the Rustlers and Queen Ann Bassett. She died here in 1957. Many books and stories link Bassett romantically to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Yes, she is the girl that was depicted in the movie of the same name that ran with Butch and the Sundance Kid. Continue walking to the other side of the Rice Bank building, and you'll find another kiosk. This one, a memorial to Silver Reef's Catholic Church. Typically, the rough-and-tumble miners here wouldn't take kindly to the words of priests, pastors, or bishops. But Father Lawrence Scanlon, who had won their respect in Pioche, Nevada, came to Silver Reef and established a church, hospital, and school just south of this memorial. Father Scanlon became an important and well-liked figure in Silver Reef. Now we're going to cross the street back towards the Wells Fargo building for our last stop, number 12. This small stone building is the Cassidy Powder House. This is a reconstruction of a building used for storing explosives used during the mining process. Normally, there would be no windows in a building like this, but these were added later for natural interior lighting. Inside, you'll find a diorama of the original town, models of mining mills and other structures, and an audio narrative history of Silver Reef. You just took a walking tour of where the main street of Silver Reef was located, along with its buildings and businesses. If you'd like to visit the mining town of Silver Reef and see its living history, visit our website at silverreefutah.org. Here you'll find the days and hours we're open, and you can make reservations for your own tour of the museum and grounds. Thanks for taking the tour. Look for other virtual video tours of other things to see in Silver Reef.